Politics midweek update. I have a guest who's out. I'm seriously in 2024. You always every election I get to meet a few people. A lot of people in politics, or you meet them and kind of go along. This is a dude I really, really like. I am on an interview now with the special lead-in to Jason Cable Rowe, the head of the Ashcroft organization. Kelton, take it away. Jason, welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update.
Well done. Well done. I like the intro.
Okay, so I've got to know you a little bit. You've got you're a Michigan guy, obviously, Michigan, and to be clear, Michigan State guy, correct?
Correct. Now, I didn't go there. They did not accept me, but I grew up in East Lansing, went to games as a kid with my dad, sold Pepsis in the stadium in high school, was a cameraman on the Judd Heathcote show and on the George Perlis show. So while they didn't want me, my blood bleeds green.
I've got an old editor, Caitlin Schallhorn, who is an absolute true blue Michigan fan. That would just boil her blood that we played that. So you're so what title? When I think of the Ashcroft, I think of you and Elijah. What title do you have with the Ashcroft organization? You're the consultant?
Yeah, so I'm the campaign strategist. Elijah is the campaign chairman.
Break me down here. Where do you see the race at here? What'll be 30 days out?
Yeah, I see it where we anticipated it would end up. Obviously, Jay starts out with some name ID advantages. He's the top vote getter in Missouri history. Obviously, as Secretary of State, he's gotten a lot more attention and headlines than most secretaries of state do. I mean, one, in terms of just the things we normally identify as Secretary of State with, but I think he's also stepped out and led on some other issues, maybe not traditionally associated with the office. But we also recognize that Mike Kehoe is going to be the guy with all the money. I mean, he has been a legislator and has been horse trading with lobbyists and special interest groups for a long time.
Okay, but let me stop it. That's one thing about this race. I've always said I look at Jay Ashcroft's the front runner. But as a front runner, you should have been. I felt like should have been able to raise more money over the last year and a half. Are you concerned about that total? While Mike Kehoe has been in the state senate, I mean, Jay Ashcroft's daddy was the Attorney General of the United States of America. I would have thought you could have traded on that name ID and the polling lead a little more effectively.
Well, and I think if you look at probably the number of raw donors, that Jay has a lot more, a broader base of donors, but they're small donors that respond to that kind of stuff. But the people that write $100,000 checks, $500,000 checks, and $1 million checks are not people looking for good government. They're looking for amenable government. And, let's face it, if you're a lobbyist, you're rarely knocking on the Secretary of State's door to curry favor or have conversations about just about anything, because it is, kind of outside of the scope of what lobbyists do. They lobby the executive branch and they lobby the legislature. So you don't have the same kind of a relationship with lobbyists and major donors as Secretary of State as you might as a senator or a governor or a lieutenant governor. And, it's much easier when you are a conservative legislator because there's other legislators that you can work around. But when you're a conservative chief executive and you're maybe not as flexible as lobbyists would like you, that can be problematic because there's only one chief executive. There's only one governor. And if a governor opposes a special interest agenda, there's not really anywhere to go to find relief from that, short of overriding vetoes and doing things like that. And so I just think Jay has a different relationship with donors in the state of Missouri than Mike Kehoe, who's been doing this horse trading and legislating with these folks for many, many years, whereas Jay hasn't.
I mean, there is, to me, just a fact of the matter. I've watched Jay Ashcroft. When he believes in something, he'll put his foot down. And if that ticks off right-wing people on Facebook, if it ticks off the Post-Dispatch or whatever left-wing group, he is very he will dig in. There's just no two ways about it. If the guy believes something, he's in.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, if you're a lobbyist, you want someone that can be flexible with you. And if you are, someone like Rex Sinkfeld that has, some very specific, priorities that maybe Jay's not going to carry your water on, you're going to go to the guy that's going to carry your water. And
this is the part of me that I don't get, though, because, Rex Sinkfeld is a big school choice guy. I always assume Jay Ashcroft's going to do whatever the national folks want him to do on that, right? So some of these things, I guess my question would be, you tip your cap a little bit to Mike Kehoe, though, right? I mean, the guy has raised a hell of a lot of money, and it's everybody running right now would like to trade for half of his haul.
Well, listen, I mean, his donor list is the who's who of Jefferson City, and it is in huge chunks of money. I mean, 100,000, 500,000, $1 million donations. Those don't come without expectations. I think the problem that Mike Kehoe might find if he ever becomes governor is, how do you choose which of your friends to ride with when all of them are at the table?
There's no question. There are people excited today about recent polling who are going to have very gray faces come February. That is there's just no other way around it, because the buck does stop when you're governor, and I totally think you're very savvy to say that there are people thrilled with every Mike Kehoe poll bump who will not be as thrilled in February, because there's just no way to take care of that many people, right?
No. When everyone's at the table, it's going to be hard to get your chicken wing. I do want to go back to your original question, though. I said this was anticipated because we always knew that Kehoe was going to have a lot more money than Jay will. And, we knew that we would maintain a lead up until funding, started flowing and ads started running. And I actually don't panic the way some folks might. And in seeing the closing gap, one, we knew this was going to happen. But two, Mike Kehoe spent $6 million, and about $3 million of that was on television ads. And he still was not able, over a 3-month period, running 13,000 gross rating points of broadcast television, to take the lead. He spent all that money and still trails in 2 polls that came out last week, the Emerson poll and the Missouri Scout poll. So
to me, he's got some momentum.
And by the way, Jay had spent 0 money on television ads up to that point. The Committee for Liberty started ads about a week ago. The Ashcroft campaign will come up here pretty soon. There will be a little more parity in spending as we get into those final 30 days, when undecided voters, which there's 40% or more, start making those decisions. So I think when we get up on the air and we're making our case, I think that's going to change the trajectory that we saw in polls over the last month. But here's the other thing.
Well, you got to attack Kehoe, right? You're going to attack Kehoe to stop his momentum. The truth is, I mean, everybody that's seeing the poll shoot off of Kehoe, yes, it's an impressive thing to go from down 30, even though a lot of it was name ID, whatever, to be within the margin of error. The momentum is on his side, but Mike Kehoe hasn't been attacked yet. My assumption is that moment there are things to a Republican primary electorate you could attack Mike Kehoe on that might be seen as effective.
Well, not only has no one laid a glove on him yet, but he's also running ads that are designed to inoculate him on his biggest vulnerability. He keeps genuinely attacking Jay on the China land selling issue. First of all, Jay was never in the legislature. He's never had a vote on this issue. So one, you can't peg him with any vote, and they're trying to contort a testimony that he gave before the legislature about closing the loop into something in which he was pro sell land to China, which is nonsense.
It is a little hard because everybody spouts this liberty stuff off. Liberty. If I own some ground, why can't I sell it to who the hell I want to sell it to?
Well, that's a whole nother debate.
And I know they're all against it now, but in honesty, you're going to really hamstring a lot of Missourians.
You know what? These are geopolitical, economic, and likely military enemies. The idea that we should be giving them a parcel of land within our nation, let alone in the state.
Well, you're not going to give them it. You're going to sell it to them. But what are they going to do? Get the dump truck out and take the topsoil back to Beijing?
There's about 200 countries in the world recognized by the United Nations. I think we'll be okay telling the 5 who are most hostile and most prepared to cause us damage within our borders that they don't get to own land here. And I think Missourians will be just fine, just like every other American in every other state will be without China owning our land. But I want to get to the point, which is Mike Kehoe twice voted in the legislature to open up the sale for the first time because of the Smith's Foods acquisition.
What would you say to those folks that have had a job, though, for the last 10 years and fed their families in North Missouri?
We'll get to that.
Pound sand.
But I want to get to the point of this. He's running ads that are
Oh, I
direct
think they're
contradiction to
disingenuous
his
too. I
record.
totally look. I
Yeah,
agree with you. Mike Keogh's ads about Jay Ashcroft and the Chinese land are disingenuous, as are if there's ads
but more
at Mike.
importantly,
They're
he's the
all full
one
of
that
shit
voted to
about
do
this.
these things. So he's running
Eigel
ads
voted.
trying to muddy the
Eigel voted
water on it.
twice to on some. And then again, this was some flake amendment in the Senate. The Democrats trying to catch the Republicans. Eigel voted twice not to block the sale of land to China. Get break. So you have China. You have the gas tax. I assume is what you're going to hit him on.
At gas tax, sales tax. I mean, he's got about a half dozen uh, um, increases in the gas or sales tax that he either offered, endorsed, campaigned for. So his record on taxes is also very bad. And let's face it, over the last 5 years in the state of Missouri, with Republicans controlling every statewide office and supermajorities in the House and the Senate, doubled government spending from 28 billion to 51 billion dollars. I mean, that is a doubling at the hands of Republicans. Why are we spending money like that? And then when you look at things like veterans hospitals that are not getting funded and might have to close because of a lack of reliable and consistent funding in the state government, how is it that we can double, add another $25 billion in government spending, but not fund a VA hospital in the state? So the priorities are out of whack. The spending is out of control. And then you have the tax increase. In fact, today is another phase in of the Kehoe gas tax. So Missourians, when you're filling up today and you see the prices are a little bit higher, you can thank Mike Kehoe, because this 12.5 cent per gallon gas
tax. Like your stickers that you had where it says "I did that" when you had Kehoe. I thought that was funny. That was
those
good
are just
stuff.
to put on your notebook. Don't put any on gas tanks or anything like that.
Oh,
just
that's weak. Put it on. If you're a NASCAR, put on a pump. Don't hold back. All right, so I like to play this game. So if Eigel, it feels like Eigel sells that message of the hell with everybody, burn it down better than Jay. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't think Jay's a burn it down guy. I mean, let's face it. Eigel's whole thing is political theater. I mean, if you look at Jay's campaign, it has been about actual solutions. We've rolled out.
But he's good at it. You have to say Bill Eigel has become very good on the stump. Very good interview. He's good at selling what he's selling, and I think there's a market of people in the state that want to buy it.
Well, so far that hasn't been reflected in the polls. Other than 2 anomalies out of 15 public polls, he's been somewhere around 5 to 6 percentage points.
Let me just ask you. You know this race very well. Let me throw out where I think the race is like today, and you tell me where I'm wrong. I think that Eigel is in the high single digits, ticking up a little bit. I think Jay's right around the low 20s, probably holding. I think Kehoe is in the low 20s with some momentum as of this morning. Am I wrong?
I think you're probably in the ballpark. I think Jay's probably in the mid 20s. I think Kehoe's in the low 20s, and I think you're right. At best, high single digits. But Eigel only started airing TV ads last week, and I don't think there's enough time to have moved his numbers. But now that we are 36 days out, people will start to tune in and focus because they realize this decision is just a couple weeks away. And so I do think you're going to see a lot more clarity, and whatever polls come out moving forward, you're going to see that undecided voter gap shrink. All the candidates are going to pick up a little bit more. It's just who picks up what, and resources will matter. So you have to give Kehoe a little bit of an advantage. But having said that,
you're not worried about Eigel picking your pocket at all.
Listen, I'm worried about him taking some vote share, but I don't think you can start as late as he's starting, build up your name ID, and build up the brand. 40 days out starting your TV ads. I think that is a mountain to climb in a short period of time. Kehoe started 3 months ago, so that's why he's been able to build up some of that visibility. Eigel did not, and I just don't think he's got the financial resources to make up that gap in this window of time. So I think he'll be an irritant, and he could tip, the outcome of this race between Kehoe and Ashcroft, but I don't think he's going to be a threat of winning the nomination himself.
What do you think the ceiling is of Bill Eigel?
I would probably say 18 is the absolute maximum, and if he got that, he should be proud of himself, because I just
no question. If he gets above 18, though, can you still win?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not. I mean, listen. When people start to realize who Mike Kehoe is, and you may know this, that in Missouri Scout today, the unofficial St. Louis Democrats voting guide is that Mike Kehoe is the best option for Democrats in the state of Missouri. And one of the things they highlight is his ideological flexibility and his support for gas taxes. That's not what Republicans want. They don't want somebody that's soft on China. They don't want someone that's pro tax increase. They don't want someone that's pro government spending. They're looking for someone who is a consistent conservative and can get things done. So while Eigel is great at being performative
Could
and
J.
pulling
Ashcroft
out
get things done?
flamethrowers, I think he's
I
demonstrated
think the
it.
first part is I believe he's a sincere person. I believe J. Ashcroft's a good man and an honest man. I think you'd find folks, even that are J. Ashcroft supporters, where he might be a little, let's just say, to put it nice, stubborn and hard to accomplish things. Is that a
Well,
fair criticism?
I would say two things to that. One, look at his record of Secretary of State and the things that he accomplished, being stubborn, because sometimes being stubborn means that you've got the will to go get things done. Then I would look at what we have had, which is legislators who are deal makers, who go into the governor's office. And while maybe they are decent at managing it, let's look at the results of those years. State legislators are, and oftentimes the problem. Our state Senate right now is a problem to getting anything done. We can't pass any of the defining conservative agenda items in a supermajority in the House and the Senate, yet we've had legislators in the governor's office governing that can't get it done. So maybe it's time we go outside of the legislature, and rather than choosing another former senator or current senator, why don't we get somebody from outside of that legislative bubble who actually
Last
sets
time
an
we did that, we
agenda
got
and
some old
fights
boy
for
that
it?
beat his wife and kids, and he literally, I mean, if you look back today, got nothing done. I
Okay,
mean,
but that guy
he
was
rang the bell of nothing.
he also was one of those people that was more of an accelerant than a doer. I mean,
No
he
question.
seemed to be
There is
picking
no
fights
comparison
for
to
the
J.
sake.
Ashcroft and Eric Greitens. There is none. But you do go outside. You can go a little too far outside. Let me just take 1 second here while we have Jason Campbell Rowe with us. I got to thank my buddy Carl from Herman. Love this Wurtenberg Steinlet, we'll call it. I want to thank the folks at United Fiber, the best rural broadband in the state of Missouri. And when you come to town, Jason, you got to stay at the Courtyard by Marriott, the best hotel in Jefferson City. Tell me, break this down for me. You've got Eigel, you think's 18, Kehoe moving. You're going to hit him. When do you start hitting him like with points?
Well, Committee for Liberty started ads last week that I think are really good. You don't know what you're going to see until you see it, and I thought they did a very good job of pointing out his record on China and on the gas tax. We'll be talking about those things, but we will also be reminding people what Jay's accomplished in his time. I mean, Missouri at one point rose to the top 3 in the country on election integrity based on what he did as Secretary of State, requiring voter ID, banning Zuckerbucks, banning drop boxes. Missouri has some of the safest, uncontroversial elections in the entire country. And when you look at what Republican voters have cared about over the last 4 years, election integrity has been at the top of that list.
Sure.
So I think he's in very good space with where the Republican
The only time
base
he ever
is.
ducked the question to me, and I respect him a great deal for this, but I asked him who won the last race, and he said something about Electoral College, and I was like, now, you're a straight shooter. And he said, oh, the Electoral College stuff, that he wouldn't say that Joe Biden won the election. I was like, now, damn it. I did not expect that from Jay Ashcroft. I'll just be honest with you.
Well, and there's interpretations to that question. I've heard it asked a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of different answers. And I think, one of the reality is, if you look at states like mine, Michigan, where you had a Secretary of State arbitrarily and extra legally change the law and change the outcome. Sure, at the end of the day, they certified Michigan as a state that Joe Biden won. But given people that were not eligible to vote by absentee were provided by the Secretary of State absentee ballots, allowed those to be counted and then certified. Do you look at that and say that was a legitimate outcome? The courts here in Michigan came back and said she shouldn't have done that. The problem is the votes were already counted, and it was after the election. There was no recourse to that. Is that, fair to say that Joe Biden won Michigan, or did the Secretary of State change?
Did y'all let Jim Leland run that like you did in 06?
Hey, lately,
right.
Leland looks like the better years for the Tigers.
You were very generous with your time. I very much appreciate it. I want to keep it to what I said. Going out, why will Jay Ashcroft lose this race if he loses?
It'll be just financial, and that'll be the only reason. I mean, he's the candidate that has the Missouri Right to Life endorsement. He's the guy that
Big deal.
has fought for the things that conservatives and Republicans care about in this state. And when they look at, someone like Bill Eigel, that again, he's great at performance, but he's not great at getting things done. And then
Yeah,
when you
give
look
the
at
guys. I mean, you look. The reason I've said before I introduced you, one of my favorite things about this election cycle has been getting to know you, and I genuinely mean that. I mean, Keogh's fundraising. If we were sitting in a hotel somewhere and we heard about this fundraising, we'd go tip of the cap. And if we saw Bill Eigel in his performance, it's very good. I mean, you could tip your hat to the other two guys on the field, right? I mean, those are
I
true,
think I think
terrific
I'm
attributes.
recognizing their
Yeah.
strengths. One is raising money, and one
And
is
Ashcroft's going to win because
performance
why? Is he got
politics.
Am I wrong to think at the end of the day, if I'm Jay Ashcroft, I had a lead. I probably am kicking myself a little for not raising as much money while I had that lead. If I had to guess somewhere, he's smart enough to know, well, damn it, I should have taken more advantage of those high poll numbers. Now that you're in the fight, I've always felt like there was the path for Ashcroft is you have the din and the bullets flare, everybody mad and throwing a fit. Then somewhere else you have stepped aside. You have that voter that maybe at one time liked the Eigel message or heard Kehoe the only one running. But when it comes down to it, you have an older person that has a very high regard for the Ashcroft family name that hears all the din and the noise, and they go back home to where the name they know. Is that the most plausible strategy for an Ashcroft victory?
Well, and I think it's borne out by what we're seeing with Kehoe spending $6 million to the other two candidates $0 and still not taking the lead. There's still being that many undecided. That means he has not closed the sale with those people. And so those folks, I think, like I say, over the next 35 days are going to start tuning in to who the candidates are because they realize with absentee ballots and everything else, the ads kicking up, an election is coming. And I do think I would rather be Jay Ashcroft than Bill Eigel or Mike Kehoe going into the final stretch, given where the numbers are today.
I just think if there's a default vote in this race, I think there's a default vote for the name Ashcroft. And if everybody gets up, the question I would have for you, this is the thing that I've watched.
Now,
by
the
way,
I'm going to give Kehoe some credit here. When you have all of these special interest groups that are communicating to their members, that's also an advantage that he's going to have going out. So all these trade associations,
I mean, like the Farm Bureau.
Yeah, different groups that are communicating to their members, that's going to be an advantage that he has. But, ours is going to be a little more organic.
Kel, do you have the Spider-Man meme that we could put up? There's an old Spider-Man meme of, they're standing by an ambulance and the three guys in Spider-Man outfits are all pointing at each other. And I've watched as we've done this before. You breaking that out, Kelton? Break it out. Let's let everybody see it. It's sort of the Spider-Man meme, everybody pointing at each other. Wednesday when we do this, we'll have Jarrett break out the one he did with all three of the gubernatorial candidates on it. But it looks to me like if I'm Jay Ashcroft and I go to bed, I'm thinking, okay, great. Bill's got some money. He raised $500,000 last week in the trial lawyers, and another donor. His team will. There's one other donor that's not a trial lawyer. He goes to bed thinking, okay, Jay thinks Bill will attack Kehoe, and then I'm going to use my money to springboard myself, and I'll win. And if I'm Eigel, I'm thinking, okay, Ashcroft's got money. He'll attack. He doesn't need to run ads for himself. He'll attack Kehoe, and then I'll jump to the head. And then maybe nobody attacks Kehoe, which I've watched happen many times in three-way races and statewide races in Missouri.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm always reluctant to throw a punch in a multi-candidate field because you don't know that support comes back to you. I do feel pretty confident, though, that, any erosion from Eigel or Kehoe naturally gravitates to Ashcroft. He is, again, the most consistent conservative in the race that I think when you look at his record. You got name ID, you've got, his time. And I do want to point out one other thing that should be noted. You invited Mike Kehoe to come and do a debate on your show. He refused.
I did.
Multiple television networks and local community newspapers have invited Mike Kehoe to come and debate, and he has refused. He's trying to get through this last 35 days without facing Jay Ashcroft, without having to stand on a stage and answer for his own record or defend his own record, and thinks he can just buy this campaign and this election. And I think he should be held accountable. If you're running for governor, chief executive of a state, you should be required to stand on the stage with your opponents and explain yourself, and he's dodging that.
I totally think you're right, but I also think, I've looked at two trends. One, politicians not doing debates and Republican primary voters, which is the only voters that matter in a statewide race. They've not punished them. I've watched donors bring almost their entire campaign funding in from out of state, and Republican donors have not penalized them for that. I think that's an indictment on the state as much as it is on and the voters of this state as much as it is on the candidates. They're just kind of responding, in my view, to what they think they have to do. But I mean, I don't disagree with anything you just said about. I think he should do that. I also think voters should wonder why you have an AG candidate coming in from Harvard with all of his money from Harvard, and then you have a Missouri war hero that raises Missouri money. I think those are things, but I think they're almost a bigger indictment on the voters of the state for just not caring.
Well, and when you look at how much we distrust our government today in America, and that comes from both sides of
Yeah,
the ideological spectrum. But you know what? You get the government you deserve. If we
sure.
continue to set aside these what should be pretty important considerations in choosing people to lead our state and our nation, then we're going to get what we deserve. If we want to keep complaining about what we're getting, then don't hold these guys accountable. But here's an opportunity to demand of Mike Kehoe, and I would, encourage your viewers and listeners to contact him and say, "Hey,
Are
why
you
don't
going
you
to
go
do a
step up and
debate
debate?"
with just Jay and Bill?
Yep, and empty chairs. The stations have agreed to put an empty chair with Mike Kehoe's name on it, so every
I
voter that tunes in is going to have the opportunity to see that he was too cowardly to stand
And if
on the
we
stage.
get into the none of your damn business, Fawn, you know you ain't gonna offend me with it, but did you negotiate that? Did you say, "I'm only doing this debate if you have an empty chair"?
No, we said yes no matter what, but I would say that the hosts of the debates were offended, particularly given that the Kehoe campaign seemed to negotiate participation for a few days, and then all of a sudden had a scheduling conflict that magically popped up, and I think that offended some of the organizers. And I also think it's the media's job to inform their viewers, their watchers, et cetera, their readers. And part of that is putting the candidates seeking office. And I think it's important. This is governor, it's chief executive, not a senator, not a
Yep.
legislator. This is the person that's going to run your state for 4 years at least, and maybe 8. They should have to stand in front of the reporters and the public and the other candidates and defend themselves. And Mike Kehoe is taking a pass on that.
So to sum it up, you think this race is, you actually believe the polls are somewhat within margin of error between Kehoe Ashcroft. You're gonna hit Kehoe,
Mhm.
just a matter of it's gonna keep it a little secretive as to when, and you have enough money to hit Kehoe and promote Jay Ashcroft, which I assume doesn't take as much as the other candidates to promote him because he already has a name ID.
Yeah. I don't think both in terms of promoting Jay, we need as many
Yeah.
resources as the other two, but I also think that the criticisms of Mike Kehoe's record are potent enough that we don't have to put the millions of dollars behind those attack ads that Mike Kehoe has had to put into his false ads attacking Jay. Ours are stickier. They are cited. They're not
Oh, you're
this
killing me.
esoteric
Oh, you're
contortion
killing
of
me.
the truth.
Are you gonna next tell me that Jay Ashcroft's an outsider? You're
He is
killing me.
absolutely an
Oh,
outsider.
shit. Okay, we have a
Have
rule
you
here.
seen him in one Jefferson City Steakhouse, Scott? I know you barely ever go into those. He's not hanging
He has
around
I'll
in
tell you
Jeff
what,
City.
Jay Ashcroft
He's
has not been at High Street Pub, I'll tell you that.
okay. There you go.
He
That's
has
where the
not been at High
insiders
Street
hang
Pub.
out.
Now, I think there's a rule that if you've been in the state senate for more than half a decade, or your daddy was the Attorney General of the United States of America, you are no longer an outsider. You are the establishment. Congratulations. Here's your pin and your handshake. Jason, I could talk politics with you all day. Thank you so much for making the time. I'm very grateful.
Thanks for having me on, my friend.
Have a good day. That is Jason Cable Rowe. He's the strategist for Ashcroft. Tell you, I've had a lot of people text me, "Oh, Jay's going to come in third." Well, I could see that path, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk to the guys. I mean, right now, Kehoe Land, it's a lot of high fives as it should be. Terrific accomplishment. That dude's smart, and I like that guy. Keldon, I'm very wanting for liking non-Missourians. I generally just don't. I like that dude. He's a good guy. I really enjoyed getting to know him, and when you the great thing is the true mark of a pro is when you talk to them in private or even here, they can say, "Oh, great libel or libel sign. Eigel's great on the stump or Kehoe's great fundraiser." They can assess their. Sometimes you play a baseball game, right, Kelton? Sometimes the other pitcher is just good. It's his day. You tip your hat to the other pitcher and you get him tomorrow. I like that guy. If I was Jay Ashcroft, or if I was a Jay Ashcroft supporter, I would feel good knowing that I'm in 30 days of a dogfight with that guy involved and on my team. I think that guy's got it together. Let's talk about the race in general. Kel, we keep seeing these polls. They keep showing neck and neck, Ashcroft, Kehoe, Eigel behind, but maybe coming up a little bit. I think Eigel has. If you're, let me just ask you, if the questions I've already got. Let me just pull up my text here. We'll do another 15 minutes. Is that good with you, Kelton?
I got all day today.
Okay, so here we go. We got folks coming in on. We have a whole list of folks, too many to list. Jared is putting together this MoGov this week in Missouri Governor. Kehoe bringing another 300,000. Ashcroft landed 10 grand from another Viceroy pack. I like that. Altman has a Viceroy pack, and now he has another Viceroy pack. I dig that. Bill, I think, got his money last week. Look, I'm seeing every poll I'm watching shows Ashcroft, Kehoe right neck and neck, and Eigel in single digits. If you're asking me who has the best, can Bill Eigel still win this race? Yes, but every day that goes by, let me just take the calendar. I'll give you my Scott Faughn's white trash hillbilly view of a statewide primary. This is after watching a bunch of these. The calendar is flipped to July. You have the extra week of the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks left in this race. I view this as a sunk week. I do not think there's going to be a lot of meaningful things that happen. You may see folks at a 4th of July parade or whatever. I think that folks aren't watching television. They're not listening to the radio. They're not in a mood. When these statewide primaries happen and the 4th of July falls between Tuesday and Thursday, the week is shot. If it falls on Monday or Friday, you do get a chunk of the week back, especially if it falls on Friday. The 4th falling on Thursday, you're going to get, we're going to work today, right, Kel? We're going to work tomorrow. Are we going to work Wednesday? Maybe till noon? Maybe.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah. Then no one's going to be working afternoon on Wednesday, and nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to be tuned in to learn about a candidate over the weekend. You're going to see a pause, which I think definitely helps Ashcroft and Eigel that don't have the money. Then you've got one more week there, the 7th through the 13th, where I could absolutely see some folks coming in, and that's a week you'll still have a little bit to yourself. Then you start to get into 3 weeks out. And so from the week of the 14th through the 20th, you're going to see more and more candidates. Your treasure candidates come in on TV. Your local candidates will start buying ads. Then you get in the last 2 weeks before the primary, and I just think it's all white noise, and it's just so hard to break through. So you kind of have a couple days this week. Then you have the next week and a half-ish that I think is going to be your chances to break through. If I'm Eigel, I probably, I love the fact that people be distracted, eat a few days. I come back out of this long weekend ready to roll. Can he still win? Yes. But you're going to have to see some spending and some movement that week of the 7th. If you don't see it there, I do think his chances for winning the race probably start to go down. But his chances for spoiling the race for Jay Ashcroft are still very real. If you're Jay Ashcroft, you just want everything to be over. And you want as many ads out there as you can, muddling every message, and your name is the one thing that carries you through. So it's carried him this far. It's what can carry him to the end. If you're Kehoe, you got to like where things are. You've got to be like, hey, we've done all this work, and we're thrilled about where things are. I think this is, if you were the truthful part about this, the only thing about this, the Kehoe campaign, you might say I'd rather pop to the margin of error on July 8th than June 18th. I think I might, if I'm him, I'd have rather have had this poll spike come a little later, because he was going to he raises the money because he's Mike Kehoe. The Jay Ashcroft hasn't convinced folks he can win. So does Bill Eigel. Bill's convinced the trial attorneys he can win. Obviously, they put their money where their mouth is. Now, how much money is left to bring in, we'll see. But I think I told you here in different places, I'd heard $500,000. That's what happened. We'll see what happens going forward. But the $500,000 I was impressed with. Then we'll flip over and we'll go to we'll look at the last 3 weeks. But that's where the race is. I think Kehoe's gaining momentum. I do think, Kel, you can put the graphic back up. I do think Kehoe's gaining. I do think Eigel's in single digits. I'd say high single digits. But I think here's the thing. The graphic you have, and you can put it up, Kelton. You can put it up now, even if you want to. I think this is every three-way, multi-way statewide primary. Everybody thinks, oh no, you'll attack the front runner. No, you'll attack the front. No, you'll attack the front runner. And that is what I'm telling you. That's what happens. And if Mike Kehoe is the beneficiary of being one of those Spider-Men in that image, he'll win because you're going to have to attack him. He's got too much money, too much momentum, and you're not going to be able to attack him. It's one of those things where it's going to look like they're attacking him because they'll cut a really mean ad, right? This is the part. This is just your white trash guide to Missouri politics. They're going to hit it. They're going to make an ad that says Mike Kehoe is an asshole, just a terrible guy. You wouldn't let him borrow your weed eater. But they're going to put it on the internet, and so in my view, if you're reading the internet, you know who you're voting for, right? Your donors will read things to see where if they need to vote, they'll be you're in for $100,000 to Kehoe. Oh man, should I be in for another 50 just to make sure? Those are conversations that start happening after this weekend. And so you'll read that stuff, but for most part, if you give Kehoe $100,000, you're voting for him. You're gonna punch that Chad through and kind of tweak your elbow to make sure it's in there. It's gonna be, if they don't put points behind it, points being you buy so many points in a market. If you don't put advertising behind the ad, if you just put up some web attacks, those are more potent than they used to be. They do get a little traction, but the truth is you're going to have to dig in and really put some money behind that if you're going to see it successful. And that's the thing I'm not sure that they're all willing to do, is actually put points behind. Kelton, we getting questions? We're getting comments?
Mostly comments.
What's our comments? Read them down for us.
Megan Marie says, this is Missouri, not Mexico, and we are going to keep it that way. Quote, Eigel's ad is the best one yet. I think she's referencing Eigel's ad he put out this weekend.
Thank you, Megan. The folks in Audrain County might be concerned. She's talking about Mexico, like Old Mexico, not Mexico and Audrain County. We're going to keep that Missouri, I think, right, Kel? What else we got?
Observing Observatory gave us a thumbs up.
And back at you.
Howard Park said, besides local news, what do they all spend it on?
Howard, thank you. Howard has sent me some of those meaningful gifts I've ever got in my life. I owe you. You have a soft spot in my heart. If you ever run out of gas in Central Missouri, you call me. I'll come pick you up. So what they spend their money on? Look, I've always believed in rural radio in a Republican primary. For the amount of money you can get it for, rural radio is the best thing you can have. I'll do you one. I do believe they're going to do digital goes up. I know Axiom's excited about the targeted texting that they've got some technology they think is somewhat proprietary. It's a big deal. But they're going to spend it on television. You're going to spend it on rural radio. You're going to spend it on, there'll be some mail. There'll be mail. And mail still has its effectiveness. I think you're seeing targeted texting, and you're going to see a lot of digital because you can afford it. Then, question. So a lot of the Rex Singfield donations have came in. Okay. Yeah, I think where he's at, I think he must be, maybe Richie, I could see. The thing is, Singfield has made it very clear to everybody. I've heard it from several candidates that have pitched him on donating their money. They don't want to be more than half of your PAC. Now, I personally think there might be bullshitting a little bit there. Now, that is one of those things, again, you say to the candidate to try to get them to go raise more money. But I feel as though they're going to be in on some of these races, and we'll see if that holds. I'll see if I was betting, when you do the math on these PACs, is Singfield more than half of one or more of them? I say yes. Are they more than half of three or more of them? I still say maybe yes. More than three. If it was over under three, I might take the under, but that'd be a solid over under. Kelton, write that down. End of the day is Rex Singfield more than 50% of more than three people's PACs. Over under, I'm gonna take the under, but I don't want to. I think the under is right. If it was 3.5, I'd take the under easy. We'll see who all they give to, but is Singfield gonna be more than half of three PACs? Give me the under, but I'm going to be wrong. I just think I'm going to be wrong.
I'm going to take the over on that one.
I think that I would tell you though, the over/under number that I handicapped that at. Now you're a professional bookmaker, Kelton. You know for sure. I think my over/under is right on that. So that's where he'll go. Look, I mean, to think people there was a time when Sinkville had a stigma of backing losing candidates. I think the dude has turned that around. I don't think that you don't even really hear that anymore. If you hear, it's people that don't like Rick Singfield. And I'll just tell you, Rick Singfield's a dude that I don't personally know all that well. I don't want to come off in front like we're tight. He might know who I was if he saw me, might not. I have no idea. I've always been impressed with his wife. His wife's a very thoughtful person. I've got to know her a little bit better. You talk about smart. She's like Kurt Schaefer smart, like Jay Barnes type smart, like Will Sharf type smart. Actually, I mean, she's on that high level of intelligence. I think they have changed their operation. I don't know how to say this and say it right, and I'm telling you, I don't know that Eric Schmidt's a U.S. senator without them. And that is, yes, on election day he had 45% of the vote. But when they were backing him, he was not in first. He was not in second. I do think Eric Schmidt, if you were throwing out game balls from the Schmidt campaign, Eric Schmidt would throw one to the Singfields. I think they were a big backer of the governor, which I think that might have came in with or without him. But still, you're on the winning team. You're on the winning team. They've been on the Kehoe team, and that is. Oh my God, Caitlin Shalhorn just saw the Michigan State thing. I'm getting my text now. My bad. He's in Michigan. He's from Lansing, if it helps, and he knows they're inferior. Sorry, Caitlin. My bad. I knew that when we first did that. I thought, oh damn. But look, I think they have a better operation. They are the 50% thing is a smart rule because I do think folks got a little lazy thinking if I get his money, I'll just sit back and do nothing except let the consultant spend that money. We'll see if they stick to that and how tight they stick to that. I'm only hearing that from candidates that have been told that. I don't know. So we'll see what that turns into. But I would assume you're going to see these 48-hour reports of some of their checks. I bet you they plan to write more. There is time. In a state Senate race, it's a lot of mail. It's not a lot of TV. It's some radio. But the state Senate campaigns are heavy mail, heavy digital. And so they could be a little more, they can get money later and still put it to good use. Frankly, sometimes better than a gubernatorial race. If you send 50 grand to a state Senate race 10 days out, they can still use it. A gubernatorial race can still use it, but it's not the game change. It's just different. Just in my observation, late money to a state Senate race can be more meaningful than a gubernatorial race because it takes so much money to influence things. And you're not trying to go in and buy pack rate TV time during the Cardinal game. You're basically putting out 2 more pieces of mail. So anyhow, I think those are we'll see what they do. And look, his percentages have went up a great deal. I'll tell you that people whose percentage, Tilly last cycle was on fire. That dude was just draining threes. His operation, Tilly was smoking it. I mean, he was just get a question, where's Steve behind? Well, you've got to have a I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, I don't know where he's at in the governor's race, but you could probably just go to the ethics site and check down. I'll just tell you, at the end of the cycle, last cycle, I don't know that he had a major 5-figure bet on a candidate that didn't win. Even the Jill Carter race, that was a significant upset. Before that, he was in on an Esslinger play that could have went either way. He was in on a Holly play that could have went either way. So, Steve has no problem taking a tough bet. He has been very on fire at advising his clients. And sometimes it's self-willing. Like if you're Rex Singfield and you give a huge check to someone, it's not, you're betting on them, but you're also tilting the odds, right? If you give somebody 100 grand, that tilts the odds in a significant, way. You've changed that game. So it's sometimes self-fulfilling if you're Steve Tilley and you can bundle a bunch of money together with a group of folks, and who you support really does matter. It's a big deal. And so while you're betting on a horse on the odds, you're also adjusting the odds with your ability to shape a race. And Singfield has that ability too. The trial attorneys have that ability. The carpenters have that ability. And not just ability. A lot of people have that ability. They have a track record of doing that multiple times a cycle. If I was saying, Kelton, if you had said, hey, where are the 4 places you should go to start raising money? I think the trial attorneys, the carpenters, I would say the Singfield folks and Tilly would be 4 of the places I would start with. Am I wrong? Am I off somewhere?
Well, I think that's pretty accurate.
And keep in mind, a lot of these other groups are influenced by them. You talk about school choice money. I don't think they all work together quite like that, but the Singfield Park folks are a big part. When you say ed reform money, I think you throw them kind of in there. I would assume when the ed reform community makes a strategic investment in somebody, they run that by them. Kelton, we got more comments? We're going to wrap up.
Yes. Kristen Bowen said Eigel's record is by far the most extremist. His ad is similarly unhinged. With all the shenanigans happening on the national level, suburban voters will lean Kehoe.
I think his ad's unhinged, and that's exactly what he planned it to be. I think Bill. Here's the thing. This is my opinion. If Bill Eigel read your comment, he'd be like, "Good job, guys. That's what we're looking for. That's good way to go." I think unhinged is popular in the Republican primary right now, and Bill is not unhinged, but as Jason put it tactfully, there is a bit of a performance art to Bill, and unhinged is what people want, what Republican primary voters want. And unhinged is what he's willing to serve up for them. And I'll tell you, in my opinion, the name folks want to vote for is Ashcroft. The message they want to, the man they want to vote for is Kehoe, and the message they want to hear is Eigel. Now, how do you pick those 3 apart? I don't know. How will that turn out? The wild card is, does Bill get another $1 million before Monday? To start take advantage of that window before everything just becomes white noise. And Kelton, we're immersed in politics. So either we're more sensitive or not. When I'm watching the Cardinal game and all 6 commercials, 5 of them are politics, my eyes glass over.
Last night, me and my wife got a Mike Hamra ad on the TV, and we were both very surprised to see that.
Here's going to be so interesting. All you Democrats, you're telling me women matter. Women matter. Integrity, election integrity. Kelton, I've heard Democrats tell me election integrity matters. Give women a chance. They've been held back, right, Kelton? Am I right? Am I on the right page?
I think you're correct. So
as the Democrat primary, going to switch hats here and take off their women matter. Give women a chance. Election integrity. Ooh, that matters. And are they going to be like, hell no? We want the guy. We're the guy that doesn't even qualify to run. We want the dude who voted in Chicago. When you put your hand on and you swear in that you've been a Missouri resident for 10 years, and you registered and voted in Chicago, swearing to them you're a resident. You're gonna do the election integrity, give women a chance, or are you gonna go full MAGA? I can't wait. I think Crystal Quaid has served this state very well. And I'll be honest with you, if I have a sentimental favorite, it'll be the person that's actually paid their dues. But it will be a little fun, Kelton, to have Democrats on and be like, whoa, women matter? No, that's not what. No. Whoa, election integrity. Tell me more about election integrity. I want to hear about this. Bullshit me some more. It feels so good. It'll be a fun fall if Crystal doesn't win. I'm torn. See, because I'm a terrible person, Kelton. I think people should pay their dues, and I totally think she has done everything you could possibly ask of her as a minority leader for the Democrat Party. But it's going to be so funny if the Democrat nominee voted in Chicago a few years ago and just threw a very qualified woman over the what do you call it? Over the rail into the water. They've run over her over the road into the bar. All the things. Going to go far. That'll be great comedy. Am I wrong? I'm torn. The quality of the show or seeing somebody that's paid their dues be rewarded. It's tough.
I was just surprised to see that he had an ad and that it was out.
Oh no, his daddy left him a lot of money. No, he's got a lot of money. They do have a lot of. He's good. Look, I don't think you could say it's just daddy. I think he's done a good job of the business. I think there's a good businessman there. I don't think you can dog him there. If he was a Republican candidate, I'd probably love him. And as a Democrat candidate, that's awesome. I'm just saying it is funny. He does have a good profile. He just, doesn't constitutionally qualify to be governor of Missouri, right? That's just just don't. The truth is, I do respect people, whatever your ideology is. If you do the job well, you take it seriously, you do constructive things, I'm kind of in. And if you just parachute in with money, I've seen that not work out so well for the state. Although I have not heard he's anything like a Greidenser. That's just not. There's only one Eric Greitens. Thank God to the women of Central West End, but there's only one. And my camera is not two. He's just a guy who interested in politics, and while I think he's a good businessman, his daddy left him in a position where he can leave his job for 10 years and run for this, and good for him. I just think it's funny to hear women matter. Women matter. Well, women matter, Kelton. Voting integrity matters. Election law matters until it doesn't. Am I wrong? You tell me.
No, I think it's pretty ironic at best.
Ironic at best, but great to talk about. That's what's up. It's great to talk about. So anyhow, we'll be back. We've been over time. Shoot me your questions. I'll probably have a guest. I'll tell you what I want. I'll tell you who I want. I want to ask Maggie Nurnberg, because I think if you're her, Jerry Nolte was a tough pull. Jerry Nolte's a good vote getter. But if I'm her, I'm like, okay, I'm still probably going to win, right? If I'm McMullen and Sauls or whoever that is, I'm a little worried. If I'm Peerless versus David Gregory, I'm like, okay, tight races. And I see Joe Biden go comatose in a debate, just full on, half dead. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This race may be a little more challenging than I was thinking. We got a problem here. And so I was going to see how she's handling that. I mean, I think if I had to guess, Maggie Nurnberg's Energizer Bunny, and she has just got so much energy. I bet she was running hard to start with. But if there wasn't, and look, Robbie Sauls is having to run hard to start with anyway, and so is Joe Peerless. Those guys have to have their head down if they're going to win their races, because they go all in all the way through the finish line in November. But Maggie wasn't going to have to probably go that hard, although she probably was anyway. But she's too good of a politician to see that debate performance last Thursday and not be like, holy shit. Let's order some more signs. Let's raise some more money. If I'm her, that's like like the Gatorade, the cold douse, and the race being like, okay, whoa. You mean to tell me they're really going to put a dude that should be in a nursing home on the top of this ticket? Holy shit. Better get after it. And that +5, we did our competitive. That's what we'll do Wednesday. We'll go through our competitive house seats. I did that +5 for Democrats. If they have Joe, all right. We need to update music. I'm gonna change this. Let me just call on myself. Yep. I pushed the bullshit button on myself. Kelton, my +5 on Democrats. Can I put an asterisk on there?
I think it's fair after the debate performance.
If you put the dude who, let's be honest, could not be a door greeter at Walmart up for 4 more years. First of all, Jill Biden, what is that? I've always thought the Bidens are nice people. If you ever know me, you know I think Joe Biden's a nice guy. I probably wasn't going to vote for him again, even if he wasn't, I don't even know how to say this, barely above vegetable. I was probably going to vote for Trump because I get pissed about gas prices. But Kelton, that Jill Biden always seemed nice to me. She seems terrible. Can you imagine your wife, who I got to meet the other day, about shout out at at Stephanie Bell's debate party? Can you imagine her sending you out there half dead and mumbling? I can't. You know what, Kelton? If it were me and I was going to go out there, I would hope you'd grab me and say, "Faughn, we can't do this. This is not good. This is not right." And then, okay, so maybe after that performance, you dragged the poor old man around like Weekend at Bernie's, saying you did a good job. Oh, that gal is just mean. I mean, the villain. Let's do our top 5 villains of the week here. Well, the Cubs, obviously, the Cubs would be the villain of the week. Mozeliak wants to be a villain, so I'm not going to make him a villain. I would say the Cubs in number 2. The number 2 villain would be the Cubs. Who would be the number 3 villain of the week, Kelton?
My landlord for making me pay rent.
Landlord, throw them in there. The British, because it's the week of the 4th of July. So we got Cubs, Kelton's landlord, the British, and I'm going to throw Joe Biden in. Villain of the week. What an awful person. You just want to be president. I mean, I assume she is president because that guy's not president. I mean, let's just not bullshit ourselves here. That dude ain't president. But if I'm Maggie, I wonder, I think she's too smart of a politician not to know, like, I was expecting Trump to win Missouri by 8 to 12. Against an actual vegetable, I think he bumps it back up to 15 again. And that Senate race that we all thought was probably over, Jerry Nolte makes it possible. A vegetative state top of the ticket. Although, Kelton, I don't know that Kamala Harris does, because Joe Biden is right now, he's likable and people are shocked to see the president that way. It would be like seeing Woodrow Wilson after his stroke. You'd be like, oh my God, you're running this. Seeing Biden like that, you feel sorry for him. I've watched myself since I saw. I was like, oh my God, if I was China, I'd be taking Taiwan like today. I would have halfway through the debate said, okay, let's roll. If I was Putin, I'd be like, this is why I waited till Trump was gone right here, and smart on him, right? But if I don't know that Kamala Harris does better. That dude from California with the nice hair, I could see that guy doing better in Missouri. The Michigan lady, she was so nuts about COVID, man. I don't know how well she does, but I think she does better than Biden. I don't know that anybody else does better than Biden here, even in a vegetative state, because I think you feel sorry for him, right? Like at first you're like, holy shit, you're the president. I mean, my God, you could win a bingo game at a nursing home. And then it's like you see his wife out there saying, oh, you did great. Here's some mashed peas, open up. And you're like, you are an evil, bad person. You're just a bad person. And you feel sorry for him. I mean, this guy, whatever you think of his politics, look, I generally don't. I don't even know what his politics are, but I probably don't agree with him. The guy spent a long time in the United States Senate. He was Barack Obama, the first black president's vice president. He was elected president of the United States. The man deserves a send-off better than oh my God, which I think is what you think now. And I've seen him go out and give a speech where he could at least put two sentences together, but you're not going to get that image out of people's heads. I mean, good Lord. And so the question is, I want to ask Maggie, does that reset the campaign? What happens there? Because I think she's too smart of a politician not to know whatever headwind she was facing. And maybe in that district, she wasn't facing a headwind, but whatever tailwind she had in that district, it will trail off if Joe Biden's a nominee. Just how much does it trail off? Anyway, shout out to Carla Esslinger, first day on the job. My God, you have a mess. You have corn men everywhere. And the alphabet soup of bullshit that defends the corn men, you have to tear it so far down. I don't know that any one person can, but if any one person can, it's Carla Esslinger, the superwoman of Jefferson City. Thank you, guys. We'll see you Wednesday. Let's say, Kelton, you want to do 11?
Works for me.
Hell yes, 11 o'clock this week.